Yo! What's going on, everybody? My name is RuffledRowlit, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Today, we're going to be doing a slightly different video than usual. Now, I've done similar things in the past where we kind of go through my hopes and wishes for what I want to see in the upcoming Pokemon games. I did this a little bit for Let's Go. I've done this for Generation 8 before. But today, we're doing a little bit of a different thing, where we're going to go through things I do not want to see. Now, quickly before I get into this, of course, you've probably seen other people do videos just like this one, but I'm doing this because it was suggested to me by a viewer, Kurt James. Kurt James sent me a different video from another YouTuber, Jubilee Blaise, who had done a similar video of things that she doesn't want to see in Generation 8, a few things that I totally disagree with, which I can mention a little bit later on, because I think one of the things she mentioned just made no sense whatsoever. Personally, I don't know, I'm just going to give my opinion on that later on, but I want to go through the things, though, in this video that I personally think should not be showing up once again or reappearing whatsoever in Generation 8 that have already had their time to shine and already been in the spotlight that just we do not need to see again. I thought we'd go through that, kind of discuss it, and, you know, just go through that a little bit, and then I'm going to give a bit of my own input on what Jubilee said in her video, and the reason I'm doing that is because that's one of the things that James here specifically asked me, or Kurt James, that's one of the things he asked me, like, hey, could you do a video, you know, with things you don't want to see, and also, can you let me know what you think about this video that she did, and her thoughts and her opinions and all that sort of stuff, and the things that she doesn't want to see. Just give me a little bit of a simple rundown, and I thought I'd just give a little bit of my input, because I've done, you know, videos in this sort of subject before. I'm a very critical person when it comes to Pokemon. I love Pokemon, but I'm always going to be critical about it so I can get a better product at the end, as we all can get a better product at the end. But yeah, so let's get into the things that I do not want to see. I wrote down a little list, not like a specific amount of them, but just a few things that I remembered that I really don't want to see. And the first one has to be the infinitely long tutorials from Sun and Moon. Now, you gotta remember, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee were a little bit different from, you know, Sun and Moon. Or they were different in an infinitely, you know, big distance. Like, the two games are too different. And with Generation 8, we know that Generation 8 is gonna more follow the path of what Sun and Moon, X and Y, and those games are like. You know what I mean? Your normal core RPG Pokemon game, right? They're gonna follow, you know, the Gen 8 game's gonna follow that path. They're gonna be your normal RPGs. Meanwhile, Let's Go is a brand new series in Pokemon. It's kind of a different series that has a different format and different style. And what you noticed with Let's Go was that they actually switched out and made one aspect really good, and that was that you could skip cutscenes, and you could basically, like, the introduction in the game, the tutorial in the game at the start wasn't infinitely long. It was pretty quick, and you got through it really quickly. But that's also because it was based on Kanto, and Kanto, even from the beginning, from day one when the first Kanto games came out, wasn't really a, you know, a generation where, or just a region in general, where you really had a long tutorial. It wasn't that long in general. While Sun and Moon, which is what we're getting more similar, you know, more similarities to. And also, you gotta remember that Generation 8 games has been in development before Let's Go was even conceived and before Let's Go even existed. It's been in development since before that, so you gotta remember that there is going to be aspects of Sun and Moon, and those aspects and those features are going to be somewhat in the Generation 8 games. You gotta remember that, please. Just remember that in your head, because that's a very likely thing that's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of aspects of that in the Generation 8 games, due to the fact that it's been in development for such a long time, and that a lot of the old stuff is still remaining, that they couldn't really remove by the time the games are, you know, close to being released, because you can't really remove those big aspects, as they would kind of mess up with the flow of the game that you created. So there's a high likeliness that we will see some aspects like that. But as long as you don't have infinitely long tutorials, I'm happy. Infinitely long tutorials are my biggest issue. I genuinely despise them. I think it was the most atrocious part about specifically like Pokemon when it came to like Sun and Moon. Like, that was one of the most awful things. It was so horrible, and I really hope they just don't do that again. But what we saw with Let's Go, though, and you gotta remember, Let's Go has been made very recently. It was made in 2 years, and we can realize what Let's Go is. They clearly realize that's something they shouldn't be doing, and they added a skip cutscenes button and, you know, other features to just make the game a little bit more, you know, seamlessly quicker to play, and not just keeping you in loading screens, or not sorry, loading screens, but rather like infinitely long cutscenes for an infinitely long amount of time. You know what I mean? You could kind of just skip through things really quickly, which is really freaking good. That's one of the things. Now, the second thing that I do not want to see in Generation 8: useless legendaries and mythicals. Now, this is one thing that's annoyed me with Pokemon since, like, since Generation 6, right? I think this has been a pain of mine. And even Generation 5 to some extent, is that legendaries have become kind of useless. Like, in the past, legendary Pokemon and mythical Pokemon were interesting, you know, like, for example, my favorite legendaries to catch back in the day were the Regis, because the Regis back in Ruby and Sapphire and, like, Emerald were the most unique things ever, man. You had like get these like specific puzzles made, and sometimes I remember even like what you need to do like, this thing with like relicanth or whatever it's called, like the weird fish. I can barely remember the name of it because I've never really used it or think about it much. But you had to use that to do some sort of puzzle and stuff. And for the Reggies, you need to like walk in a certain pattern or stand still in a certain area for like a minute or whatever. I can't remember the exact puzzles because it's been years now. But you did those puzzles and you got the Reggies, right? It was a unique way to get them. There were events, there were interesting things to do for mythicals as well. There were events with mythicals. There was things to actually do to get your mythicals. You got gameplay to get mythical Pokemon. Now, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but over the last few years, mythical Pokemon have become fucking useless. And I'm sorry for swearing, I don't like doing that in these videos, but they've genuinely become useless. There is nothing fun about mythical Pokemon. You just get them from a code, and that's everything. You just go to a GameStop, you get a code, plug it into your game, and that is it. There is nothing unique about it, there's nothing fun about it, none of that. It's just very boring, and I don't know why they would go about it in that way. It's just a little bit disappointing. Also, on top of that, I should add that, like, it's just, legendaries as well have become pretty useless. No longer, I mean, even with, like, when I think of, like, Sun and Moon, the legendaries there were super boring. Pretty darn boring. I mean, I guess the Tapus could have been fun, but I didn't really enjoy them that much. But, like, the Solgaleo Lunala, pretty meh. And also the fact that you can catch all the legendaries now, like, super easily in all the games, it's just a little bit boring, because back in the day, getting a legendary meant something. A legendary Pokemon was legendary, right? It felt big getting a legendary Pokemon. Now, people walk around with a million of them, and nobody bats a bloody eye. It's just the most normal thing you can possibly see. It's nothing special. And that's the thing. You lost the feeling of it being special by making it more limited, you know, and, you know, harder to achieve. And that's the thing that I think gaming needs to always retain, but the video games have been starting to lose, which is that you got to keep things a little bit difficult sometimes if you want people to, you know, enjoy them to a fullest extent. You can't just hand things out, because once you start handing like, you know, what do you call them? Like, I guess like trophies to everyone. Like, just participation trophies, right? There we go. When you start handing out participation trophies, that doesn't lead to anything good. That just leads to boring gameplay that doesn't feel rewarding. Like, I know when I play video games, the most rewarding thing from a video game is when I put a lot of effort into something, and I get that thing, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm one of the people who put the time and work into this, and I got this thing, right? That's what makes it more worthwhile, because you've actually, you know, exerted some energy and you've done something to get that. So yeah, something that, you know, not everybody's gonna do, and you're one of the people who did do it. So I feel like they need to bring the kind of, you know, the spice back to kind of legendaries in general and make them somewhat more interesting, because they just have not been interesting for ages now. They just haven't had any intrigue. But yeah, I'm just got a little bit stuck on that one. Let's jump over to another one here. Grid-based movement and animation. Now, you guys may not notice this, but I notice this a lot as someone who pays attention to just the kind of art direction Pokemon's going with in the animation and stuff, and someone who's messed around with animation to a little extent, not too much, and also video game development. I noticed that with Pokemon, there's just constant use of movement, like grid-based movement. What I mean by this is that the whole map is made in a grid, and the way that your character moves isn't fluid. Like, basically, like, the way, like, not just your character, but mainly the animations of the NPCs, you may notice this, but they all walk like robots, and they rotate like robots. That's the problem, like, with Pokemon, I feel like, when it comes to the art direction, is that they still haven't gone away from the grid-based system where characters move in a grid, rather than moving freely and actually having fluid animations. They all just look like robots when they walk, and they all have the same animations, like left, right, you know, left, right, back, center, you know what I mean? There's nothing unique about it. There's very stale. I feel like they definitely should improve on that and go away from the whole grid-based movement system and how that works, and also just add in a third-person camera. Honestly, allow us to use the Joy-Con, you know, to actually move, like this one over here. Sorry, this one over here to move, and this one to move the camera. So we can walk around in third person and actually look around and see what's going on, and not having to force us into this position where we're just from a bird's eye view and we can't see what's around us. Now, I know why they do this bird's eye view. They want to hide stuff around the map that they haven't finished building, that you can't really see. Because if they allowed you to see those areas, you know, in third person, you'd see that they were never made, and those areas are like open. It's just like a, you know, blank space, because they never made like trees there because there was no point, because nobody was going to see that anyway, you know what I mean? And that's why they do that, because there's just extra work. So making it, you know, bird's eye view is just easier for them, which I get, but please just, you know, go away from that. Just go away from the whole grid-based movement and improve the animations of the characters so they don't look like robots when they bloody walk. That's one of the things. Now, next thing here, number 4, Kanto pandering. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I am just tired of Kanto. Now, I get if you enjoy Kanto, that's fine. Like, there's no problem with enjoying Kanto and liking Kanto as a region, but we've already had Kanto too much. In Sun and Moon, we had Alola forms for only Kanto Pokemon. Now, you may argue, oh, but that was a 20-year celebration. But still, just because it was a 20-year celebration, why were those the only ones? Why couldn't you do something more interesting and take, like, a few Pokemon from every generation? Because I feel that would be a better way to, like, celebrate the whole franchise. But no, we gotta celebrate Kanto! And then they do another, like, a remake, again, the second remake of the Kanto generation and the Kanto region, a second remake with Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, which I just personally didn't enjoy that much. And then also, you know, we've had in the past, we've had, during Generation 3, we had remakes then. During Generation 4, I can't really remember if we had anything like Kanto related, besides the Kanto region being in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, which was fine because it was just an extra region and was supposed to mimic how it was in Soul, you know, Silver and Gold back in the day. But basically what I'm trying to get across is that almost every generation has had some impact from Generation 1, which I understand, but I really want Generation 8 to not have any connection to it, and I just want it to be its own region and do its own thing, and just be a single region with brand new interesting Pokemon, and not have, like, any, you know, just big-ass pandering for Generation 1. Gen 1 is cool, that's where everything started, but we don't need to give it a big ol' handy every single day. We just don't. We just don't, okay? We just do not need to give it, like, that satisfaction 24/7. It can go a day without being talked about, you know what I mean, or given attention by a Game Freak. That's what I'm saying. Either way, next thing here, an actual post game. Okay, so Let's Go had no post game. I don't care what anybody says. The Master Trainers were useless. This is something I think Jubilee Blaise also mentioned in her video. The post game in Let's Go was just atrocious. It wasn't even there. Like, it just didn't really exist, to be honest. You could argue that, oh, shiny hunting's one, but shiny hunting exists in almost every Pokemon game, even Gen 1, where you can do this weird hunting with, like, the number on the Pokemon and stuff. So it pretty much exists in almost all Pokemon games, and you can't say that that's, like, you know, oh, that's a unique thing to it. No, it exists in all the Pokemon games. If anything, it's the worst in Let's Go because it's only one method of hunting, and it's like, oh, cool, it's one method. Great. I've got no other options. But not just that, there was nothing unique about it. There was just nothing unique about the postgame, nothing that made it different or better or any of that, and that is really just frustrating in my opinion, because they could have done so much, but they didn't. They could have added so many extra things to do at the end, but they did not, and the things that were there, like the Master Trainers, were just useless and boring. I genuinely did not enjoy the Master Trainers. I thought they were pointless, and just doing these, like, small little battles with Red and, like, Leaf, nothing interesting, cool. You're just, again, pandering to the Kanto crowd by having Red and Leaf and whatnot. I get it, but still just not that interesting to me. So that's one of the things. But this one also leads well into the next point, which is proper online gameplay. Now, I don't know about you guys, but Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee had the worst online system from any Pokemon game I've ever seen. It was atrocious. In the era we're in right now, where you have, you know, games like ORAS, which had great online connectivity, Sun and Moon, which is a little bit iffy, but still better than Let's Go's. I mean, in an era where online is pretty, you know, it should work pretty seamlessly, and, you know, online hubs and that sort of stuff exist in tons of other games you can use as inspiration, I don't understand how Game Freak just doesn't make a proper hub, specifically from Let's Go. Like, that was atrocious. We had no hub, and the online interface was horrible. The way you got into battles was totally random. You couldn't, like, actually connect with a friend and battle them. You have to wildly guess with a code and try to connect with them, or accidentally connect to somebody else. And as somebody who streams like myself, it's kind of hard when I'm trying to find a viewer to battle or trade with, and I have to write the code, because some asshole's gonna always go and try to type in that same code to get connected to me, and that's a little bit annoying, just saying. So that whole system just needs to disappear. We just need to be able to add people on our bloody Switch and then battle them through, like, you know, getting their friend code and all that stuff. Like, that's just the way it's supposed to work. Why are we forced to do this whole code thing, which was so bad in the online in Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee? Why do we need to do that? Can we just not walk away from that, honestly? Now, next thing. Better UI, and this is mainly from Let's Go. This is something I think Jubilee as well mentioned, is that the UI was just not good. I hated the UI in Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. I thought it was cluttered and it was all over the place, and I hated like how I couldn't, like, if I wanted a specific candy or something to be, you know, to do something with it, to use more than one candy for a Pokemon, I couldn't. I need to use it one at a time, which is so freaking slow. Why couldn't I just, like, you know, press the button and just pick them out, like, oh, I want to use 100 of them on this Pokemon? But no, you couldn't do that, and it's just really annoying. Like, why wouldn't you have an option for that? And also, like, everything was just so cluttered and all over the place. Just not a fun way to, you know, experience your gameplay. So yeah, I don't know. But now, final thing here, and that has to be the ability to skip cutscenes for replay value. Now, I mentioned this at the start, almost, that, you know, skipping cutscenes is something that they did add in Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, which is great. I hope they take that feature and they bring it over to Generation 8, because that's something I think we do need. We definitely do need that. So that's something I do want to see them move over, because, like, for the replayability purposes, I think that is needed, for sure. It's something that we just lack at the moment, and we definitely need to, like, keep it, you know, we need to keep it there, because we haven't seen it in all the, you know, other core RPGs like Sun and Moon, X and Y, etc. But we did see it in Let's Go, and it was one of the things that was unique and interesting about, you know, good about Let's Go, not unique, but, or interesting really, but rather it was just kind of one of those things that was good about Let's Go, which I hope is one of those features that comes over. Now, I'll add something else here, and this is more to do with what Jubilee was saying. So I agree with Jubilee about the catching mechanic, as well as the friendly rival. I hate the friendly rival. Those who do not know this, I've said this a million times. I dislike the friendly rivals in Pokemon. I have not liked them ever. I've always disliked the friendly rivals and thought they were boring. I like the more, you know, mean-spirited or just more, you know, aggressive rivals that kind of like give you a bit of a challenge rather than just kind of like hand-holding you throughout your journey. Like, a rival to me is somebody who I should be, you know, actually in a rivalry with, rather than somebody that I'm holding hands and, you know, jumping through daisies with. I shouldn't be doing that. Personally, that's just what I think. If you like friendly rivals, that's fine. It's okay. But personally, I don't think that's something I want to see. What else? Also, the catching mechanic. I hated throwing Pokeballs. Genuinely hated it. I thought it was just not fun. It just ruined the gameplay for me, and that's also the reason I haven't picked up the game since. I have not played Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee since. Actually, I haven't replayed the game. I have the Eevee version and the Pikachu version, and I only played through the Eevee version on stream and did a little bit of shiny hunting, and then I haven't touched the Pikachu version. I just don't have any, like, anything in me to make me want to go and play the Let's Go Pikachu version. Just nothing in my soul that makes me want to go and play it. I can't get any joy out of it. I just don't want to replay it. Which is not a good thing about a Pokemon game, because I've replayed Pokemon games in the past a million times. Even Fire Red, which is a Kanto game, I've replayed that like 50 freaking times. Like, I've done it so many times. But with this game, I just can't replay for some reason. I don't have the urge to do it. So that's one of the things. Now, one of the things that Jubilee mentioned that I think was just really odd, she mentioned like England and the UK and not having regions based on England, the UK, and the US, as well as Canada. Wait, so I think it was like England. She said England, but I think she showed an image of the British, like the UK, like flag, or whatever you want to call it. And also Canada and the US. Now, sure, the US has had two regions, which were Unova and Alola, right? That's what they've had. Unova being based on like New York, I guess, and Alola being based on Hawaii. That's the only place out of these three countries here. That's the only country that's actually had Pokemon regions. The UK has not had a single region, not a single one. Not even Canada. None of those two have had regions. So I'm not sure where she got that from, or why she doesn't want to see a place based on those areas, because we haven't had a single region based on them. The first 4 Pokemon regions were all based on Japan. You know, Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, all based on Japan. Unova, based on the US. Kalos, based on France. And Alola, based on Hawaii, which is also in the US. There's no UK there. So a UK region, I don't see why that would be an issue, or a Canadian region as well. Like, I wouldn't mind a Canadian region. I think that would be awesome, because there's so much great nature out there, and I really want a cold Pokemon region. I just do not want any more summertime, because I'm just kind of tired of that. I just want a cold Pokemon region with mountains and cold and Vikings, for crying out loud. There were Vikings in Canada. Just saying, okay, it's pretty cool. And also Vikings invaded the UK and killed a bunch of British people back in the day, or English people, I guess. Or people that lived there back then. I don't know. The point I'm trying to get across is that Vikings are cool, and we should definitely have a game where we have Vikings. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the end of the video. I know it was pretty long. I do apologize. Either way, though, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you want to check out Jubilee Blaise's video, I'll link it down below as well. But again, this is not me trying to attack Jubilee Blaise or anything. I just want to give my input on what she said, and also just give my input on what I do not want to see in these upcoming games. And that's about it, though. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for watching. My name is RuffledRowlit. I'll catch you all next time. Have yourselves a great day, and bye-bye.